What's up, guys? We've been getting a ton of requests for shop tours, so we figured today this would be a fun day to start with our Megabass showroom. Now, Megabass flew out several years ago when we moved our store from the lake to the city and built this beautiful Megabass showroom here inside of the Hookup Tackle. If you guys have been in our store, you have been through it and hopefully love it as much as we do. If you've never been here, we thought this would be a fun way to kind of show you around and introduce you to the wonderful world of Megabass. So if you guys are ready, let's do it. Welcome to the Hookup Tackle. The Hookup Tackle is the world's largest showcase of Megabass products, featuring baits and colors not found at any other dealer. The Hookup also offers a wide display of OSP, Evergreen, Depths, Lucky Craft, Jackal, and many more. The Hookup Tackle is owned and operated by family, is staffed by guides and verified tackle nerds who love helping anglers elevate their craft. If you're in the Phoenix area, we'd love to have you stop by our showroom and check out the wonderful world of Megabass and the Hookup for yourself. If you shop online, there are almost 10,000 SKUs of Megabass products alone, with hundreds of other companies and new products being added daily. So next time you're looking for that hard to find bait, that color your fish have never seen before, or maybe you just want to elevate your game, look at thehookuptackle.com. All right, welcome back, my friends. I am Ben with the Hookup Tackle, aka the Tackle Otaku on Instagram, being filmed by my buddy Jeffrey the King. We are the Hookup Tackle USA. So Jeff, today we're talking all things Megabass. Are you ready?
Finally, dude.
All right, so I know a lot of you guys have been asking for some tours around the shop, and so we figured we would start here with one of my favorite brands, and that is Megabass. So excited to show you everything that our store has to offer. Now, a little bit of history with us and Megabass and kind of talk about kind of how some of my fanboying came to be, right? So we opened the Hookup Outfitters and the Hookup in 1999 as a guide service. And as we grew the guide service, we naturally thought, let's get into retail. It seems to be the next course of action. So in 2008, we opened up our first retail store. Now, this was literally the world's worst time to invest everything we had into retail. Huge economy crash, had our first kid. It was just a nightmare, and every penny we had went into this store. Now, I have been a huge fan of Megabass baits since the late 90s when I was tournament fishing, and of course Edo Vision 110 was becoming super hot and really famous at that time. So I knew I wanted to have as much Megabass in our store as we could, and we did the best we could. I mean, literally we were spending 20 hours a day, sometimes 40 hours at a time at the store, sleep at the store, changing diapers, right? But doing everything we could to represent our favorite brands as well as we could. Around 2010, 2011, Megabass called and said, hey, we really appreciate, how well you guys are doing. We know it's tough right now. We'd like to set up a meeting and just discuss ways that we can help you guys grow and be a good team partner. And I just expected that meeting to be over the phone. Next thing I knew, there was 6 dudes all the way from Hamamatsu. They literally jumped on a plane, flew all the way to Phoenix, drove up to Lake Pleasant where our shop was to have a 1-hour meeting with us to just thank us and brainstorm with us ways that we could help grow the brand. Back to the airport, back to Japan. I mean, literally it was like the most mind-blowing thing. That was kind of my first true experience with how serious Megabass takes their products. And I really just became just a huge fan from that point forward of the brand and of the people. When we opened up the store here about 7 years ago, I reached out to all the main brands that we were doing business with and kind of said, hey, we have a clean slate. Is there any interest in, building out a little shop and shop or showroom? And Megabass loved the idea, flew out, built this beautiful showroom so that we had a place here in the US that we could display and showcase as much of the product line as we possibly could. At that time, again, everything hadn't really picked back up, economy-wise, and they had more faith and trust in me than I think I had in myself. And so, Megabass builds amazing products, but it's an amazing company. And the wheels behind it, the artistry behind it, and the people behind it are really impressive. And so that's why when it feels like I'm fanboying, I am. I love all things Megabass, and I'm really excited to show you guys the space. So, you ready, Jeff? Let's go for a tour. Let's walk through it.
All right,
Let's do it. All right, so, you know, the purpose of the Megabass showroom space is obviously to showcase as much of the product line as we can, but it's also to be super interactive, right? We want people coming through the space. You know, I want you to be able to pick up a bait, touch the bait, take it out of the package. We've got a demo tank if you want to use it, right? Really be hands-on and get a full immersive experience. So obviously we started over in the jerkbait section. You know, the 110 is probably the most famous bait in the Megabass lineup. And basically, our showroom is going to go from, you know, 110s, and it's just going to kind of fade through the line. So, you know, if you guys aren't familiar with the Megabass line, the Edovision 110, arguably the best jerkbait ever made. There's a silent version, so full range of that. There's juniors, there's junior plus ones. There's Edovision 95s, which is a pretty dope one from Japan. There's the FX, which has the movable bill, plus ones, plus twos, saltwaters, LBOs, right? So all of the 110s are, you know, kind of in this section for you to come through and really get hands-on with the colors, right? We then kind of transfer over and we start graduating into some of the bigger jerkbaits. So things like my favorite jerkbait, the Edo Shiner, right? So just a little bit bigger than the 110, a little bit louder, a little more aggressive. We then graduate into the 110 Max LBOs, the LBO Saltwaters, and then the Canadas, which is their biggest jerkbait offering. Really loud, really aggressive, super dope bait for, you know, fishing over grass and weeds and that kind of stuff. We then kind of fade backwards the other direction into the X80. So the X80 is a really cool, smaller profile bait. You can fish it really aggressively, much more aggressively than you can a 110. So it works really well when they're really juiced, really jazzed. We try to bring those in the saltwater colors and the saltwater LBO as well. We work into some X80 Magnums, some X120s, so just some cool things that you don't see all the time, right? Then we start to fade into wake baits. So Megabass makes a bunch of wake baits. They make great wake baits. So we see things like the iJack and the iLoud. So both the iJack and the iLoud have a loud knocker, loud internal knocker. So as they move through the water, they're going to have a nice, you know, kind of one knocking sound, similar to like a kick knocker, super spook, something like that. The iLoud is also going to incorporate a blade in the back, so you kind of get the squeak of a prop with that same loud ruddered weight system, so super dope. And then if you wanted a quieter approach, of course they have their iWake version and the Prop Darter 80s. So both of these are going to be a little quieter, little swooshier on the top, designed more to mimic like just, you know, bait fish when they're kind of rippling on the surface. So no real loud sound, much quieter, more stealth approach there with those. And then we graduate into kind of bait fish type patterns in the Overrev crank and the ORC burning shad. So these are going to be more crankbait-ish looking. The Overrev is going to be more the full-size option, and then the burning shad a little bit smaller. You can fish it a little faster. They both cast amazingly well because they have that Megabass LBO weight transfer system, which is basically like an internal bullet that's magnetized. So when you cast, it shoots to the back to enable a really far cast, and then it locks in place. They do have that kind of great sound as well, so you get more of a bait fish profile with that loud knock. It works super dope. All right, and then from there we kind of spill into our crankbait wall. Now, you know, Megabass is famous obviously for their jerkbaits, the 110 like we talked about, but they have in recent years become really one of the biggest powerhouses in crankbaits. They have probably the most expansive crankbait line of any brand I know of. Square bills, mid-range, deep, and like a plethora of options, right? So, you know, we start kind of in the square bill section here, where we see, you know, the knuckles and the knuckle juniors. These are the knuckle LDs. This is an amazing little square bill. It's got a computer board lip to it. It's got a swiveled hook So it just has a super interesting vibration, a super interesting swim. It can hunt, it can move different ways, and that lip kind of flexes to give it just a different action. So super effective there with the knuckles. Then we move on to the Sonic side. So the Sonic side is designed to be a really fast moving shad profile type bait. Now, it doesn't have to be moving fast. You can certainly fish it slow as well. And there's colors anywhere from crawdads to perch to shad, right? But it's one of those square bills that when they're really aggressively feeding, you can burn this through and you can really draw some great reaction strikes out of the fish. Goes from there to the S-Crank. A lot of you guys are familiar with the S-Crank. The S-Crank is designed to be a hunting style bait, very unique shape. It's going to come through the water and it's going to really hunt and fight to get back to center. So it's a great one to fish in open water. It's a great one to fish around grass. Because of the way it hunts, it's pretty snaggy around wood, but because it's got its own built-in action, it doesn't necessarily have to be banging and deflecting off, you know, obstacles and cover like a traditional square bill does. So that is the S-Crank. From there, we've got some, you know, small cranks like the Super Z. So the Super Z is a relatively new one for Megabass. It comes in a Z1 and a Z2, and soon will be in the Z3 as well. Super stoked for that. And the 1, 2, and then 3 is basically just talking about the depth, right? So it's just going to be deeper as the number goes higher. But what's cool about the Super Z, it's a very small profile, right? You can see it's only 53 millimeters long. You see a really tiny profile, only weighs 1/4 ounce, but it casts like a 1/2 ounce crankbait. So because of that LBO weight transfer system that Megabass puts in a lot of their baits, you can throw it a mile and it's a great crankbait to have. So all the colors of that, it fades into the Eye by Eye Shad, which is, you know, in theory it's a crankbait, really more of a true shad type bait. So it's kind of a jerkbait crankbait hybrid. But again, it's got that LBO weight transfer system. So, you know, traditionally shad style baits are kind of designated for spinning rods. They're a little bit more difficult to cast. You don't have to do that with this guy. You can throw it on traditional gear, heavier line if you need to, or you can throw it on your spinning gear and light line and really just get incredibly far casts. So definitely a staple out here, the Eye by Eye Shad. Then we kind of transition into some of the Japanese small baits with the Griffins. So the Griffins come in an SRX and an MRX, and then we even have a Bait Finesse model down the way. So the Griffin is a small body, just super dope looking crankbait. It's been in the lineup for a long time. This is kind of a high pitch, kind of wide wobble, so you'll notice it's a much higher sound than like a one thump, one knocking you know, type crankbait would be. Incredibly effective. You can get the shallow or the medium depending on the depth you want to go, or of course the Bait Finesse if you want a smaller approach. It fades then into, you know, flap slaps, diving flap slaps, flap slap LBOs. I mean, there's so many options in crankbaits here with Megabass. But the flap slap is a really unique bait. It's a hunting, or not really hunting. The flap slap is a flashing hunting. I'm just excited to be in the Megabass space. So it's a flashing bait. So as it's coming through the water, it's going to flash top to bottom. It's going to have much more of this action versus just all side to side. So again, it's just something different. You know, when Megabass makes their baits, you know, Yuki Ito, the founder of Megabass, his idea is that, you know, if we're lucky, right, and we're catching fish, that through the course of an 8-hour day or a 10-hour day, you know, we're spending probably 95 to 98% of our time casting and retrieving, right? And usually only like 1 to 2% of our time actually catching fish. And when you think about it, that's kind of how it goes. You make a lot of casts in between fish. So you better enjoy the process. You better enjoy the casting. You better enjoy the retrieve. You better enjoy the hunt, trying to get those fish to bite. Obviously, we want baits that get the most bites, right? We want to catch the most fish. But, you know, when Megabass sets out to build all these little nichier, you know, in-between baits, it's because they want to give us tools to where we can really think through the process, right? So it's important as you're getting these baits to kind of understand why they're made. and envision being that bait in the water. That's kind of the design of these, and that's what makes it so fun. We then get into some Shadding X, which is another kind of shad type bait. I'll hold it up to that eye by eye shad. So the Shadding X has been historically the small kind of shad bait of choice. What's dope about the Shadding X is it's got a couple of kind of little tungsten weights up on top, very, very light, but they kind of just clack and create little shad clicks. So in colder water or when the bait is just really lightly moving, the Shadding X is dope. And the eye by eye shad is going to get you a little bit more distance in there. You can see the dive elbow, again, just a different depth. And then we start getting into the Deep X series. So the Deep X series is basically going to go Deep X 100 LBO, Deep X 200 LBO, Deep X 300, and so on and so forth, right? So the Deep X series is a pretty dope series of crankbaits. The 100 and 200 are going to feature that LBO weight transfer system that we spoke about. Great, easy casting. Because of that weight transfer system, they remain relatively silent. Not truly silent because there's still some of that bearing movement inside the LBO transfer itself, but they're going to give you a much more stealth approach than something that's just full of rattles, right? So the 100 is a super sexy one for just kind of running down the bank, imitating a small, baby bass or a shad or a crawfish, something like that. And as you'll see, Jeff, as you're going through here, we try to leave some Easter eggs every once in a while, through there for our guests that come in. So, there's a handful every once in a while of like Respect Series colors, limited edition drops, maybe some open boxes, that kind of stuff that we're here. So, if you come into the space, take your time, go slow. You might find some little secrets here and there, right? The Deep X 200 is a dope one for really kind of that shad fish type profile. We crush them out here in our cleaner water a lot on that bait. And that seems to be another one of those crankbaits that doesn't need to be deflecting. Something in that LBO, and because those bearings are kind of oscillating and the action of the bait, it does get bit a lot just in open water, right? So super dope one. All right, Deep X 300. This has been a staple in the lineup for a really long time. Now we're getting into more of that full-sized, kind of mid-depth crankbait. So that 15-foot type zone, gonna have a lot more sound to it. This is a great one, just kind of casting and just banging around down there, right? Create some ruckus. It's going to deflect great. It's going to create a lot of noise. Just a tool that you're going to use a lot, pretty much all the time, right? Then it jumps from the Deep X 300 to the Deep 6. So the Deep 6 is going to have a little bit longer lip to it. This is going to get down in that true kind of 18 to 20 foot zone. Deep 6 still, to me, is a really slept on crankbait, right? Even though it is a, potentially a 20-foot diving crankbait, it doesn't crank your arm off. It's super easy to throw, super easy to fish, and really effective for suspended fish. So it's one that we use a lot when they're sitting in treetops. We just need to kind of like get it over the top of them. They smoke it. Now, in between the Deep 6 and the Deep X 300, we see the DX Freeze. Okay, so the DX Freeze is the same body size, but then different lips for shallower approaches. So you can really have any of these, baits, and you're gonna have that same, loud sound, the same knocking sound, but in the depth that you need it to go, right? So super dope that they build all these in-betweens. That way there's something for everybody for fishing shallow water, grass, any of that stuff. Then of course it's gonna jump into their big mega sized crankbaits in the Big M series, right? So the Big M, a lot of you guys follow JDM Tackle and Megabass closely, and obviously, trends and baits and techniques, everything kind of comes from Lake Biwa. That's the biggest lake in Japan. That's kind of the mecca and the mothership, if you will, of tackle and bass fishing in Japan, and it is known as the Mother Lake. So that is the M, right? In the Big M. It could also be Big Mama. Yeah. Right? I like for that. Big fish, right? So monster hunting, right? Megabass, right? So it could be any of those things, but that's really what they're talking about with that M. So the big M comes in 3 different sizes. It comes in a 2.0, a 4.0, and a 7.5, right? So, and again, these numbers are talking about meters. So it's going to be very common in Japan tackle. When you see a number, it's typically the meter that the bait's designed to go. So the 7.5 is designed to go 7.5 meters, right? So it's a true bait for digging in that 20, 21, 22 to 26, 27 foot. It's gonna really get down there. But what's dope about these baits is even though they're heavy, right? So you're in 10XD territory here. They aren't designed to have a really wide movement. They're designed to have that flashing again. Remember the flap slap? We talked about how it flashed a lot. It's designed to have that more flashing movement. So it's so much easier to fish all day. Gone are those days of like, oh my God, my arm's about to fall off because my 10XD is just down there doing this crazy stuff. It's just much tighter action. So for a deep diving crankbait, it's definitely the easiest one to throw. Of course, if you guys are fishing ledges and that kind of stuff, more in that 12, 13, 14 foot zone, then the 4.0 is great. And then if you just want, a big profile bait that you can fish shallow, the 2.0 is dope. And of course, we carry all the colors, US and Japan colors in that guy. So, whatever you can imagine crankbait wise, there is something for the perfect presentation for you, right? All right, then from crankbaits, it kind of transitions into lipless crankbaits. And Megabass offers some amazing lipless options. Some of the best ones and still some sleepers in the lineup as well. So the first one that we kind of transition to is the Battalion. Now the Battalion has really been a hot one in the last couple years. Basically, it's just a beautiful kind of bluegill panfish type profile. And it's in a bigger size. So like this is the regular Battalion, it's 1 ounce and 3/8. Then they also make a Battalion 190, a big, 4 3/4 ounce sucker, right? So, in theory, it looks a lot like a glide bait, but really it's designed to be a lipless bait that's going to swim just like a lipless. It's available in a float in this size, and then in the big size available in a float and a sink. So if you wanted to sink it out deeper, you can. But this is just a great one for ticking over grass, any aquatic vegetation. The Battalion is super dope. Of course, the Vibration X Ultra is, really the staple of the lineup. This is the true, kind of 5/8, 3/4 ounce lipless that's just great. It's so many different things. You can just cast and retrieve it. It's an amazing one for, kind of working like a jig on the bottom and kind of yo-yoing and hopping when those fish get down on the bottom. You really got to put your lipless down there on the bottom. This one is dope for that. So I think of the Vibex Ultra as either a chuck and wind or kind of a structure lipless is really where it shines. And then in between those two, you see the Vibration X Battalion. So they kind of took the Vibex Ultra and the Battalion and they spawned them, and it had a baby, and there it is, the Vibration X Battalion. So, a smaller version. They put a lip on there just to help stabilize it a little bit. They didn't want it to kind of wash out or roll. So again, it's available in a sink and a float, but you're gonna fish it the same way you're gonna fish a lipless. It's gonna be really tight, just like a lipless, but in that nice kind of natural bait fish, bluegill type profile. Super dope. All right, and then we move into the Vibration X Junior, which is just a little smaller profile. Just for something, when they get picky. Vibration X Ultra to Junior, it's nice to have that smaller shape. And then of course it goes into the Vibration X Dyna, which is the smallest version before kind of getting into that BFS size. It's still capable of throwing on full-size bait. These are dope because they're available in a rattle and a silent, right? And a lot of times, guys are looking for, a lipless bait. They want that tight vibration. They want to be able to rip it out of grass and fish it around what they're fishing. But the fish have seen so many lipless and they're used to that sound. They're used to that loud rattle. So being able to drop to a silent can be critical. Silent is also available in the Vibration X Junior, right? So you've got a couple options there in silent lipless. And then from there, for you BFS guys, it jumps over to the Vibration X Nano. You can see how tiny those little dudes are. Just a super cool, just very lightweight, but you know, Megabass is very popular with BFS guys. There's a look at the Bait Finesse Griffin as well, just so you can kind of get an idea. But you know, cool. I've been super into the BFS stuff, you know, this last year, and it's really fun to throw some of these smaller baits and catch some of these fish that are maybe just a little bit more pressured than, you know, big lake type fish are. So dope that they have those options. Let's jump over to Topwater, Jeff. All right, so let's dive into some Topwater. There's some great Topwater options from Megabass. Some of this is core product that we see all the time, and some of this is special run product that they will do in Japan a couple times a year, right? And that's kind of some of the allure of Megabass, I think, and part of what keeps it fresh and cool is that they have, you know, core line in the US, a core line in Japan, then they have all these little specialty products and cool little niche colors that they'll run every so often, and you never really know when they're gonna make it. So I'll share some of that with you. So obviously, you know, Megabass has the Big Gabbit Frog. This dude, we sell gazillions of these. I know most of you are going to be familiar with this, but this is just a large profile, large body frog. It throws so easy because of its size. It walks so easy. It spears them. It hooks them great. It's just a great frog. This is the new Batra X from Megabass Japan. Kind of a really interesting system. The dude that designed these is he's just kind of a famous monster hunter, right? Tons of snake heads and travels all around the world catching big fish. But this is just a super dope frog. It has a removable lip. It has a tail that spins. So you can just do a lot of different things with that frog. We also have the pivots down here, which is kind of a soft plastic, you know, hollow-bodied walking bait, right? So think of this kind of like a spook style bait, but for fishing over slop and heavy cover and that kind of stuff. All right, and then speaking of walking baits, we start transitioning into the Dog X section. So, you know, Giant Dog X is something you can see I'm a little more run over than normal because it is the season, right? It's topwater season. But Giant Dog X is the staple in the lineup. If you're just starting in Megabass Topwater, this is usually the one that you get. It throws easy, it walks super easy. You know, you can throw it on pretty much any gear that you have, and the fish eat it. It's got a nice, beautiful slice. It kind of sits kind of nose up, tail down in the water, so the hookup ratio is better than a bait that just sits really flat on the water. Available in a ton of colors, saltwater colors, freshwater colors. And then there's also smaller versions of the Dog X, like the Speed Slide and the Quick Walker. And these are just designed to be quicker moving baits. Okay, they're gonna act just a little bit different, little smaller profile. So when it gets tough, sometimes the Speed Slide is definitely a good one to have. From time to time, we'll have X Pods in here. So the X Pod and the X Pod Junior. These are a bait that used to be part of the core line, and they kind of did away with it, and now they're just kind of making it in specialty colors, right? So they'll make it in some of the Respect Series colors that drop every month. They'll make it in, like, these are like 2021 Celebration colors, right? The X Pod has a lip that moves up and down to give it different actions, but it's an amazing walking topwater bait. It's got a great sound to it. It's got that kind of great knock. So, you know, every once in a while we'll have some sleepers hanging out in here that you guys want to make sure you're paying attention to. All right, and then we're over to our poppers. So we've got, you know, Pop Max, of course, is, you know, Pop Max is really quintessential Megabass, I would say. You know, I can't think of a bait that represents the brand more than a Pop Max. You know, really by taking a, you know, traditional popping bait, hollowing out parts of the front of the bait so that water can go through it. It can go through the gills, right, to create a special bubble, to create a special sound. And then by widening the back, it allows you to walk the bait as well. So you've got a popper, you've got a walker, right? You've got multi-purpose going in this bait. Super dope. We sell gazillions of them. Definitely my favorite, you know, definitely the most universal popper in my personal box, because you can just do so many different things with it. So here's those. And again, there's some little hidden eggs, right? So there's some, you know, some leftover respect, tequila shad, some, you know, ill serious. So again, we leave some little Easter eggs around every once in a while. Baby Pop X and Pop X, so just kind of continuing down the size cycle here in the poppers. So the Pop Max is the biggest, then it goes to Pop X, and then Baby Pop X. And again, all of these kind of have that same idea. You can walk them, you can pop them. You know, I think of these more as like true finesse poppers, but a lot of guys crush them just, you know, having them as a small finesse walking bait as well. Moving up in size in walking bait, we see the Dog X Diamante. Now, the Diamante is available in a silent and a rattle version. This is super dope. So this is going to be in that super spook sizing, right? Like a kick knocker, shower blows, super spook. The Diamante is going to have a little bit different action than those. You're going to need to move it a little bit harder, like a little harder movement, but it's going to pop in a totally different way. So completely unique sound, a little bit higher pitch, right? So you're still going to get the rattles, you're still going to get the sound, but it's not going to be that like deep bass one pitch. It's going to have more of a shad click movement sound to it. The silent is dope because sometimes they just, you know, they get picky, right? Especially in clear water, like where we fish a lot. So having one that's fully silent is great. All right, and then of course, you know, Megabass makes amazing bug style baits in the Siglet, in the Grand Siglet. These are kind of cicada type profiles that just get really buggy on the surface when the fish are crushing that. Great for bass, great for trout. And then of course, you know, we're on to Griff's favorite topwater bait, the I-Wing. So the I-Wing is a really cool crawler. They really designed the I-Wing to, you know, to do a lot more than traditional crawlers. You know, crawlers in Japan are very popular because so many anglers are fishing from shore. And the crawler style bait is really designed for like ponds over grass, shore fishing, super effective in smaller bodies of water. But traditionally crawlers have to be fished very slow. Just because the nature of those big wings open up and they have to kind of move really slow. The I-Wing is dope because it has an internal rudder, that same rudder that we looked at earlier in iJack and iLoud with that knocker. Gives it a knocking sound, but it also allows it to stabilize. So as it moves one direction, that rudder kind of rights it, right? So you can certainly fish it very slow, but you can also fish it very fast. So you can do so many different speeds and really versatile. You can buy replacement wings. If you don't want silver wings, you want gold or black or red or whatever. It's a really cool system. All right, and then, you know, over the last couple years, trout fishing has really boomed a lot in Japan, and Megabass is really committed to building the best trout baits they can build, right? They're taking that same bass mentality, bringing it into trout, bringing it into saltwater, right? And so we carry the full line of that as well. So, you know, the Great Hunting series available in, you know, humpbacks and flat sides and, you know, jerkbaits, all kinds of different things. Now, just because it's trout oriented, don't worry. I mean, I live in the desert, right? I wish I got to fish for trout all the time, but I don't. We use these all the time for bass here in the little lakes, little urban rivers. You know, dude, Griff smoked a big one the other day out on Lake Pleasant, which is, you know, a pretty good sized lake, you know, on the humpback in the Great Hunting series. So if you're just looking to downsize something really small, there's tons of options here, floating, sinking. Of course, you got the X70 in the bass lineup, which is the smallest little jerkbait that they make. Super dope, definitely a spinning rod type or BFS casting. But when they get picky, this is a really good one. We throw it a lot. Definitely kind of a slept on secret just because not a lot of places have them. There's also some other smaller baits in the line that we kind of keep over here in this section. The Karashi, this is kind of like their eye motion, kind of walk the dog type bait. Really small, super dope. We see over here the Swing Hot, which is their small pencil popper. It's just another unique topwater bait. So lots of fun little toys. This is kind of the section where you're going to want to just kind of go slow and play and pick up and see. All right, and Megabass is really committed to, gear as well, for this trout and shore enthusiast, right? So we try to stock as much of that as we can. They also make amazing storage solutions. So, great organization bags, tackle boxes, right? Pouches, right? All kinds of things, whether you're fishing from shore or boat. They make hip packs, right? So, camo, black. They make storage bags. I've got several of these. I have this bag in my car at all times, full of my lunch boxes. That is my main bag. Zip lure pouches, all kinds of small little things, right? Lure cutters, different stuff. So really dope, gear and, fun little toys from them as well. All right, swim baits. Talking your language here, Jeff.
Yep.
All right. So, swim baits are something that Megabass has really become famous for. You've got, Zaldane crushing them on the mag draft seemingly every day, right? You've got Oliver, crushing them on the ice slide and winning $100,000 tournaments on the ice slide. So, Megabass swim baits have really been kind of thrusted into the limelight. And I would argue that if you add up the mag draft and the dark sleeper, if you call it a swim bait, ice slide, they might even rival their jerk baits for market penetration and total sales. Super amazing baits. So we keep some of the larger hard swim baits here in the booth. So of course we have the ice slides, the 185s available in floating and sinking, 135s. We bring in the eye brakes from Japan, which is a dope little concept designed to swim and then just kind of stop, and it kind of breaks in place. Pretty cool. Of course, the Garuda is their multi-joint bait that you can weight down and deflect off the bottom if you want. Of course, the Big Dog, the Mega Dog, their largest topwater bait. It's a super dope bait. And then we fade into the Ice Slide 262s. And the 262 is the largest glide bait from Megabass. We carry them in all the core colors, and as you can see, it's one that we stock a ton of because we throw it a lot. We believe in it, and it's just a great, for this size glide bait. If you are in a lot of other Japanese brands, you're going to be spending, $150 to $250. So here you've got one for under $100 that works amazingly well. So there are the hard baits. And then of course we have, soft swim baits as well, right? So you've got Mag Slow, Mag Draft Freestyle, 5-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, right? All the sizes. If you're not following Jeff, by the way, Crazy Bass Fisher on YouTube, you should be. He smokes them on the big Mag Draft. You're a big fan of the Mag Draft.
Yeah. 100%.
So I'm a big fan of the smaller size Mag Draft. So I'll man up one of these days.
I hope you do.
To your status.
The 10-inch kind of gets bit.
I see you catching them on
best.
it. Yeah, I love the Freestyle. That's like my staple. So we try to keep all those in stock. Of course, the Dark Sleeper. You guys all know of the Dark Sleeper. Probably the most knocked off bait of 2021, right? But the Sleeper is an amazing swim bait, but also a jig. Really designed to be a jig. But you can certainly just kind of cast it and wind as well. Hazardong shad for drop swimming, the bigger size, and we carry them in all the US and Japan sizes. Of course, there'll be sheer heads to go with them. And then, my favorite of the line, the Spark Shad, something that we throw all the time. Spark Shads are available in a 3-inch, a 4-inch, a 5-inch, just a super versatile swim bait. Can do all kinds of stuff with it. Of course, you can fish the 3-inch size on a Ned head. You were just jacking them up on the 3-inch size.
Yes, I was.
Weren't you? In Wisconsin?
Yeah,
no, Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Same place, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all the same out there.
That's what I thought. I love the 5-inch size. Early in the year, when you need to fish it around cover, 4 inches is great on an A-rig, kind of all around. Of course, the Waze Swimmer is their swim jig that's designed to perfectly match with the Spark Shads. So we keep all the sizes, all the colors in stock on that. It's a great 1-2 punch between the swim jig and the spark shaft. And of course we start fading into, you know, some of the other nichier stuff. You know, Megabass builds arguably the best hard baits, right? But they also do an amazing job with wire baits. So spinnerbaits, buzz baits, you know, the SV3 and the V9, you know, both incredible buzz baits, or spinner baits. I do know what I'm talking about, Jeff. Both incredible spinner baits. So the V9 is designed with a hardened wire, a unique shape cup head, so it's going to kind of vibrate really, really hard under the water. It's just going to give a more of a lipless vibe to a spinnerbait. The SV3 is going to be more of a compact, you know, heavier gauge, real durable spinnerbait. Small profile, thin blade, so it's still going to kick out a lot of vibration. So kind of a cool 1-2 punch. More for higher in the column, more for lower in the column, and depth control. And then of course we've got, you know, buzz baits. We have the V4 buzz bait from Japan that's got the dual plastic blades, and of course the buzz bait that's kind of just blown everybody away over the last bit, the Jamaica Boa. True 1/2 ounce buzz bait, weighted in the rear of the hook, so it casts like a dream. You can make it silent, you can make it clack on the blade simply by compressing or flexing the wire. Of course, there's lots of other little nichier type blade type baits. There's the X-Crew and the Nautilus. These are going to be the tailspins of the lineup. The Nautilus is a line through tailspin. So, you know, I know a lot of you guys jack them on the tailspin. This and the X-Crew both come from their saltwater line, and we do sell a ton to saltwater guys, but most of the guys we sell them to are actually freshwater guys who just need a super dope, something different tailspin, right? And that's really what those are delivering. So you've got a couple options there, and of course their blade bait, the Dyna Response, and the Chitala. These are the two blade baits in the line. Dyna Response is going to be more the true blade bait action. You can chuck and wind, you can lift and drop, but really where the Dyna Response is dope is on that straight retrieve. They love eating it. Chitala is going to be a multi-segmented bait, so it's just going to give you a different look. And again, different is kind of, you know, what we're all about, right? That's it seems like the more and more pressure, you know, the fish get, the more it's important to be different. So, you know, tons of options there from Megabass. Of course, I know a lot of you guys are saltwater anglers fishing, you know, surf or calicos or maybe even some bigger species. And Megabass does make some great saltwater items as well. We try to carry all the key items. I know a lot of you guys are surf casting stripers and halibut and that kind of stuff, so we carry the jerkbaits. The Orpoi is a super dope kind of iron replacement that a lot of guys use in freshwater as well for stripers. Of course, the Waving Rider is my favorite bass jigging spoon. Comes pre-rigged with, you know, stinger hooks and everything right out of the gate. And of course, Megabass is making a huge splash in soft plastics again, which is really exciting because that's something that they've done so well in the past and then kind of got out of. But you know, because they've been so successful with Hazardong and Spark Shaft, it's great to see them back in this realm. And a lot of this is still really slept on. So you've got curly tail worms, you've got, you know, one of my new favorite free rig baits in the rock hog. You know, you've got TK twisters, you've got bottle shrimps, you've got tournament crawlers. So, you know, all kinds of soft plastic you can think of. Megabass does an amazing job with the soft plastic stuff. Let's look at rods, Jeff. All right, one of the big things that we wanted to make sure our space had was the ability for anglers to come in and put their hands on rods. Now, Megabass builds amazing rods. They build rods a little bit differently than a lot of other rod manufacturers. They build each model specifically for the use it's intended to do, from butt to tip, from scratch, every single model. So they're not just taking one rod and then tweaking it to make it heavier or tweaking it to make it lighter. They're literally starting from scratch on each one. And they're designing rods to be ideal for the baits that they make. And as you can tell, they make so many baits, they've got a ton of rods to go with them. So, you know, we really encourage people to come in and put their hands on rods. You know, rods are, they're such a personal thing, right? I mean, I can say how amazing a rod is, I can show you the flex, I can talk about, you know, what I feel, all that stuff. But a lot of times until you put it in your hand, depending on how you hold the rod, how big your hands are, where your reel sits, a lot of times you put something in your hand and it just, like, you know instantly. It's like, oh my God, it's like heaven, right? So, you know, really important that we had the room and the space to be able to do this. So you know, we try to showcase every model rod that Megabass has. So like over here, we have the Destroyer P5s, which is the, you know, latest Destroyer line, super light, spinning and casting. We've got some of the Tomahawk rods over here. We've got, you know, some of the saltwater rods. So Silver Shadow, Shadow XX, a Stallion. You know, they make some super dope saltwater as well. You know, the entire Valkyrie line. So, you know, I'm a huge fan of the Valkyrie line. The Valkyrie line was designed in Japan for Lake Biwa. They all have these adjustable grips, so you can shorten them or lengthen them based on your needs, which is amazing. They're all glass carbon composites. They also make multi-piece versions in the World Expedition, so you can get a 4-piece version of that as well, which is super dope. Then we've got next to you over here, Jeff, we've got, you know, Levante and Hyuga on the back. So Levante is a $199 priced rod from Megabass, beautifully styled. Basically, they took the same models from Orochi and Destroyer and put them into a $199 rod. Hyuga is a dope Japanese JDM, beautiful styled rod. It's got that same kind of pyrophil blank from the original Levante series. So available in like some lighter, more finessier BFS type options that complement the Levante really nicely. And of course we have Japan Destroyer, so both Japan Destroyer and the Carbon Head. So these are JDM only models that we bring in from Japan, just to kind of fill some of the gaps that Destroyer P5 doesn't have in the line yet. So super dope there. And of course, they're really big into multi-piece and travel. So getting back to that kind of great hunting, you know, shore fishing, adventurous type fishing, they're really going full steam with the multi-piece rods as well. So, you know, Triza, which is an amazing 3-piece rod. We've got all of those spinning and casting in stock. We've got the Great Hunting, which is the trout series. And I mean, if you're a trout guy, I mean, just beautiful, beautiful rods, right? So, you know, this is great to be able to come in and put your hands on them, play with them, try them. And then finally, we have our Orochi rack. Now we've got Orochi XX on the front side, which is the US Orochi. And we have Orochi XXX on the back side, which is Japan Orochi. Blanks are the same, styling's a little bit different, models are a little bit different. So again, there's some little gaps and little niches that some of the XXX and Japan Orochis fill. There are also some multi-piece, both 3-piece and 2-piece Orochi XXXs that are nice for travel as well. All right, and then finally we have the Creme de la Creme. Did I sound fancy?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Boom. We have our bougie Megabass rod section, as I would call it. So Destroyer Evolutions, TS Destroyers, and arms. So you hear me talk about TS Destroyers a lot, specifically, you know, blackjack, poker, backrack. TS Destroyer is really their most swim bait, big bait focused you know, rod series. They're built incredibly strong, very durable, just amazing rods. The Evolution is probably the most aggressively styled. I mean, just so beautiful, so light, titanium graphite blanks, just, you know, quintessential JDM rod action and styling. And then of course, you know, the arms, hard to beat in arms. This one happens to have Megabass monoblock reel on it as well, leather side plate, special etching, but the arms are a custom program that Megabass does. We bring some in, we try to get some in every couple months, we build them to our specs, and just super sexy. Again, you can choose left-hand grip, right-hand grip, you can do a matte carbon fiber, you can do a gloss, you know, different colored specs, you know, dragons on them, no dragons on them. So this is the ultimate, you know, true, you know, $1,000, $1,100 rod, but just beautifully styled and quintessential Megabass for just, you know, geeking out and throwing all the best stuff in there and building the best rod they can do. All right, guys, that is a wrap. There's the tour of our Megabass showroom inside the hookup tackle. It was fun for me. It's been a while since I've actually just gone slow and looked at the space, and you know, Megabass builds such beautiful baits, such great baits. So, you know, hopefully that was enjoyable for you. If you guys have any questions on anything we covered, please drop me a question down below in the comments. I will get to it. Jeff, put some links. in there. In case anybody wants to check anything out closer, of course, you can go to our website, look up tackle. You can come into our store. We would love to have you in. I've got some cold Orions waiting for you right next to the Megabass space. So if you guys get a chance to come out to Phoenix, Arizona, we would love to have you out here. But again, I am happy to answer any questions I can. And guys, appreciate the time. Thanks for going on the tour with me. Until next time, thank you for the business. Thank you for the support. We will see you soon. Peace out.